Welcome to Inside Sim Racing and our review of the Thrustmaster TX1 Ferrari 458 Italia, wow that's a long name, racing wheel and pedal set. You may have seen our unboxing video that we came out with a few months ago, and since then we've done quite a few driving videos with it, and man, I've been pretty much running this thing non-stop since we got it. But now it's time to review this latest offering from Thrustmaster. Back when we reviewed the Thrustmaster F430 wheel many years ago, man, I think 2008, one of our biggest complaints was that it only had 270 degrees of rotation versus the competition having 900, Logitech G27, stuff like that. Also, the lack of compatibility with the consoles. Eventually, it became compatible with Gran Turismo, but anyway, that's history. Then came the T500, which is pretty much set a benchmark in the industry and is probably one of the top of the line wheels that you can get for sim racing. It has 1080 degrees of rotation, 3-pedal set, was compatible with pretty much every game on the PS3 and very compatible on the PC, and has really become one of the go-to wheels. Now comes the TX1 racing wheel, their first force feedback wheel on the Microsoft platform. They had come out with something on the Xbox 360 that was mainly meant for entry level, no force feedback, had vibration, but for us, that didn't cut it. Now this wheel, that's another story. Xbox One compatible, PC compatible, 900 degrees of rotation, brushless force feedback motors, belt-driven mechanism, which is pretty much the standard for Thrustmaster. It's also modular, which they refer to as their ecosystem. And what that means is that you can use the GTE or the F1 add-on. If you can see back there, I've got it on my PC with the GTE 458 racing wheel. Now this is a little bit different. That's the one that comes with it. Get to that in a minute. Now it also comes with this 2-pedal set, standard, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, but you can also, again, with this ecosystem, you can use the upcoming T3 PA pedals, which I have attached there, and I've actually taken off this brake pad, or yeah, I guess this would be called a brake pad or brake cover, and I'm using that for my brakes. Or for my brake pedal. And as a matter of fact, those pedals are very similar to the ones that came with the F430, almost look identical to be honest. So how does this wheel compare to wheels in its price range or close to its price range? G27, CSR, stuff like that. Not gonna do a direct comparison, but I'm gonna tell you what I think about it, and then you guys can be the judge of how it may compare to what you have there. So first off, I'm gonna tell you how it feels on the PC. I've tried it with iRacing, Assetto Corsa, R-Factor 2, and I honestly had a hard time telling the difference between it and a T500. As a matter of fact, when I first started driving it, I forgot that I had switched to the TX wheel and that I had taken my T500 off the PC. Obviously, I knew what I was getting on the Xbox One, but when I switched over to the PC, started running Assetto, iRacing, I looked down, I was like, wait a second, this isn't the T500. So it feels that close to a T500, but there are some differences. I'd say the biggest difference, two biggest differences. One, it doesn't have the static paddles like the T500, which you can change out with the GTE rim or the F1, and then you have paddles that move with the rim. But this rim, the 458 one that comes with the paddle standard, and nice positive click. I think my only complaint is, and it's going to be one of my cons you'll hear, this wheel just feels very toy-like, very plasticky, where the GTE rim, the original T500 rim, and the F1 rim feel a lot more like a real car wheel, where this one is, man, I'd say probably half the weight, mostly made of plastic, but it does the job. So I really can't complain. It's got all the button configuration for the Xbox One, I should say. And obviously, I've only tried this with Forza 5 on the console. There's nothing else compatible with it yet. So yet to try it with anything else but Forza on the console. But like I said, on the PC, I've tried it with a bunch of stuff. Another one of the biggest differences is the base size. I'd say the base is probably 20 to 30% smaller, and I don't have exact measurements, but 20 to 30% smaller, and probably about 20% lighter than a T500. So that's gonna put less stress on, let's say you're putting it on a wheel stand, a rig. The T500 being so heavy, man, you really have to have a solid deck or solid rig to attach it to avoid any kind of wobble. It's not the case with the TX. It's definitely more along the lines of a G27 or a Fanatec CSR as far as size and weight goes. So let's go back to how it feels. Again, I tried it on the PC and the Xbox One. I'm gonna start on the Xbox One. I have to say that that combo for a console, the TX wheel on the Xbox One, is currently the best or most realistic sim racing setup that you can do. And this is again for consoles. You know, I'm comparing it to the PS3, Gran Turismo 5, Xbox 360, Forza 4 using the Fanatec stuff. Man, this is leaps and bounds. As a matter of fact, I like this better than, I'm not gonna mention which offering, but one of the new offerings on the PC that I hadn't mentioned. But Forza 5 now feels better with their new tire model and the way their force feedback interacts with the game. Man, it just feels amazing, is the best way I can put it. Again, it's probably, next to the PC, iRacing Assetto Corsa R-Factor 2, probably my favorite way to sim race right now. Okay, so there's some opinion on it, some basic opinion. I don't want to go too long, and I can discuss this in our forums and in our blog and through YouTube if you have any questions, but I just want to get to the basics, get to the pros and cons, give you my final thoughts, and again, we can discuss more of it in, you know, our different social media platforms. So first off, let's go with the pros. Xbox One and PC compatible. Next, smooth turning. It's got a really smooth, light turning. And again, one of the biggest differences between it and the T500 is the T500 is a little more dampened. And that may be because of the two motors, or I'm not sure, maybe the belt drive mechanism's different. And maybe the lighter weight of this wheel attributes to that. But it just seems a little bit quicker than the T500. And not to where the T500 was slowing me down. It's just, especially for some of you road racers out there that really want to have that quick snap, you might be a little bit better off with the TX. And again, I love the T500, but this has now become my wheel of choice. Some other pros, strong force feedback. Again, I can't really make a comparison between that and the T500. It's so strong that I have to turn it down. I can't go maxed. On the Xbox, it's maxed. I have it maxed out, but on the PC, there's no way. There's no way I can max it out. Probably rip one of my fingers off or something. Another pro, compatible with the T500 rims. Well, I'm not sure about the GT rim, but the GTE and the F1 rims, both compatible with this setup. Also gonna be compatible with the T3 PA pedals, and it's not officially supported, but if you can kind of see in the background, I'll get you guys in the shot, I'm using my T500 pedals with the TX pedals, or with the TX wheel right now, so, and it's working great. Next pro, smaller base, which can mean a few things. One, easier to mount. You don't have to have as much space as far as up and down goes. It's not as deep as a T500, and you don't need as stable a base. I mean, the more stable the base, the better for any wheel, because you don't want it moving around. You don't want to think about that when you're sim racing. But that smaller base just does make it easier, especially if you're only going to go with a wheel stand. It's an advantage. Some other pros, same hard mount points as a T500, so if you had a T500 or bought a rig that was compatible with the T500, this thing will bolt right in. Definitely hard mount things. We use M6 bolts to hard mount to our bases, and it just, again, you want to avoid any kind of wobble in your sim racing wheel. No external power supply, where the T500 had a big block, so you had to figure out a place to put that. Nothing like that on the TX1. You just plug it right into the base, plug it into the wall, you're racing. And the last pro, actually, no offense to these pedals, but probably one of the only pro of these pedals, is the big face. I like that big braking face. It just, you know, braking is one of the most important things when it comes to racing, and it's nice to have a solid platform to put your foot on, especially if you're doing some super hard braking. And that's gonna lead us to the cons. And the first con, I kind of already mentioned it, and this wheel just feels toy-like. It's kind of plasticky. And when I'm running, I'm mainly using this with Forza 5, this wheel, this rim, and I'm using the GTE rim on the PC right now. It's just kind of plasticky, and I wouldn't say it takes away from the performance, but I don't know. It's all made of plastic. The plastic up here on the rim versus the other rims are all wrapped in rubber. You have the rubber grip. So you can consider it a con or not, but it doesn't affect the performance of the wheel. Actually, I don't prefer this shape of rim either. I would prefer a round rim, just to have, you know, balance across the whole rim, but it's pretty cool nonetheless. Another con, only compatible with the Xbox One and the PC. I'm sure that's licensing issues, those. It's great that it is compatible with the PC, but would have been cool if it was compatible with the PS3 too. But I'm sure there was some kind of deal with Microsoft that they had to make, so kind of a bummer there, but not a deal breaker. Next con, back to the pedals. You know, if they were gonna go with this 2-pedal set, which I understand, 458 Italia doesn't have a clutch. You know, it's a paddle shifted car. You know, it is a manual transmission, but it's paddle. I guess you can call it a Manumatic or something anyway. They don't have a clutch in a 458 Italia, so for licensing reasons, neither do these pedals. But I would have liked to have seen some progression on the brake. It is a little bit stiffer than the gas, but doesn't offer enough progression for like hardcore sim racing. I would definitely like some kind of, you know, like on the T3 PA pedals, they have this thing called a conical brake mod, which is just basically a little piece of rubber that sits here behind the pedal arm. And it just offers more progression, so it feels like you're pushing on a brake pedal. So I'd say one of the cons is this pedal set. It definitely leaves a lot to be desired for. And that's pretty much it as far as the cons go. I really can't think of anything else in the cons department, which is gonna take me to my final and closing thoughts. I'd like to see this base sold alone. I'd love to see Thrustmaster offer this base with no rim, no pedals, so you could just buy the base yourself, buy the T3 PA pedals if you want, or if you really wanted the 2-pedal set, buy the 2-pedal set for cheap. And then you can get the GTE rim, or for you guys out there that just want to do F1 racing. I know there's a lot of you out there, you can buy the F1 rim. So that would truly make it a modular system in my opinion, and maybe they have plans to do that in the future, but I would like to see that. I think that would be really cool. And it would just, you know, make it more affordable, and you could get exactly what you wanted, because between the 3 offerings, you pretty much can cover everything as far as your sim racing needs go. So, what am I gonna give this wheel? Well, I'd say the way I have it back there, it'd be hard for me not to rate this wheel a 10. Based on the way it performs, the way it feels, how quick it is to react, strong force feedback, compatibility with multiple rims. Kind of hard to top, man. It is a really solid piece of equipment. Now, with just this rim, I'd probably give it closer to a 9. I'm just talking the wheel. The pedals. What would I give these pedals? In all honesty, I don't think I could rate these pedals much higher than maybe a 7. So if you were going to school and if I was gonna grade it, I'd give it a C. Even their T500 offering, I'd say is more like a B, because it doesn't have a progressive. You can buy a progressive brake mod for it and even a load cell, but and it's a solid pedal set. You can invert them, but these just don't compare to that set, and that's kind of where, if I was to rate it as a package, I'd probably give the whole package an 8, and it's because of the pedals. With the T3 PA pedals, I'll give that whole package a 9. Solid 9, no doubt about it. Definitely, right now, like I said, my wheel of choice, which is actually part of my closing thoughts. This is my wheel of choice right now. Smooth, precise force feedback, compatible with the Xbox One, Forza 5, which is probably one of my favorite titles. I do love Gran Turismo 6, but man, I'm a little more partial to Forza 5 right now. It just has a better feel to me, and you know, with their new tire model and the way this force feedback's reacting, you can feel all the rumple strips and the cobblestones in Forza 5, and it's just a great package. And it's amazing how far they've come on the consoles now compared to when we started the show. We honestly didn't want to cover consoles when we first started the show. It was only about PC racing, and now they've come so far, they're really catching up to what's on the PC. And may see some of these PC, actually, Project Cars is coming to the Xbox One or the PS4. iRacing's talked about transitioning to consoles, so these consoles are getting so powerful that it's almost to the point where they're as good as a PC. PCs are getting so cheap that you may want to just buy a PC instead of console racing, and it's a toss-up, man. There's so many cool things. It's such a great time to be a sim racer that You can just go in so many different directions. It's awesome. So that's going to wrap things up for my take on the 458 Italia TX1 racing wheel by Thrustmaster. Hope you've enjoyed my review. I'd like to hear your comments. YouTube, Facebook, come to our forums, come to our blog, comment there. Would love to hear your thoughts on the wheel and what you thought of my review. So anyway, that's going to wrap things up. I'm Darren Ganji for Inside Sim Racing. I'll see you guys next time.